How are we all doing? Welcome to the Let's Talk podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to be continuing with our series on depression. And we're going to be talking about our life after counselling and some of the lessons we've learned from that and how that has now impacted, we feel, our future and how our outlook and feelings towards our future as well. So just to get it started, what do you feel is one of the main things you've learned from counselling or lessons through depression that you now carry with yourself moving forward?
Yeah, well, I'm sure you could agree with me. There's quite a lot, what you learn about yourself and learn from the whole depression counselling journey as a whole. But I think one thing for me that is really important to me that I always quote to people or who are in situations is that actually look at what's in your control. And I think when I first heard that, I didn't really understand it, like the phrase really, like looking what's in your control, and until it got broken down to me by, our counsellor, and it basically got described as when you're in a situation, and realising where like the line is to what you can control, so you can control, your actions, your thoughts, what you're going to do, but then you've got to realise, okay, where do you stop? Because once you know that like barrier of where you get to, and you're just like, right, I can now disconnect or detach myself from what's over that barrier because I can't influence or control other people or certain situations. And I think for me, learning that is one of the biggest things that has helped me after counselling.
So so what was you like before that she helped teach that lesson? Do you feel when you went into a situation, you didn't really take that step back to look what's in my control? You took on the responsibility or went past that line and went into how others react and you tried to control their actions, and did that maybe then obviously negatively impact you and cause you to maybe overthink and spiral? Because again, like you say, you couldn't control what they were doing, but you was taking it very to heart and personally other people's actions.
Yeah, exactly that. Like, I had issues controlling like my emotions, and when in certain situations I wouldn't know where to stop in a sense. So I'd literally go into a situation 1,000 miles an hour thinking I could solve, I can solve everything, even the person's issues and their person's issues, and thinking I could do everything and fix everything. And if someone was ignoring me, I feel like me messaging them so many messages would make them stop ignoring me, and it was like that's not gonna work. So I think now I have such more of a healthy approach to situations where I do take a step back and I'm like, okay, I'll say what I need to say, or I'll do what I know what's healthy and right, and then it's like a 50-50, isn't it? You reach out and then let them think about whatever, and then they'll reach out. And I think it just has helped me so much after counselling in situations I've been in and just day-to-day life, to be honest.
Yeah, and do you feel it's been an easy thing to learn, or I think like anything has its challenges, because when you enter a situation, it might be a calm one or a very personal one. Obviously, as humans, we have emotions, and that can obviously influence and impact how we approach situations. So do you now try to be more in control of your emotions, and if something within yourself is getting to a certain point, or you feel like you're starting to lose control, it's maybe taking that step back and I'm like, okay, this is not going a very good way in a sense, it may be best to just detach from that completely for a while?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, everyone's human, in situations when, emotions are flying around, depending on who's in the situation. Sometimes you don't have a chance to think. You just say what the first thing comes into your head, and you have no control over that. It happens. But yeah, I feel like now definitely, especially if it's like a sensitive situation, I would really, really try to think about the best way to approach it and handle it for everyone involved, really. So I wouldn't just go in, all guns blazing, let's just get it on the table. Now it's a bit like maybe, let's talk about it. Should we just take a few minutes to ourselves first before we get together and talk about it? There's so many different ways you can do to handle a situation.
Well,
I feel like I'll definitely try to handle them more healthy now.
No, I think, and again, I think like we say, because we are human, you can never handle a situation perfectly, but I feel you can handle it in a way that you feel happy with afterwards. Where
Yeah,
sometimes you'll maybe come away from a situation and feel I'm not really glad about that, how that went, or I wish I didn't say this or do that. But again, I think that's part of the learning process, is going through these tests, reflecting on the other side, be trying to be as honest as you can with yourself. But okay, I didn't handle that very well, but next time maybe a test like that presents itself, I would wish to approach it in this manner now. And again, I feel it helps teach you more about yourself, and taking that responsibility and accountability, and trying to remain calm and in control and be the person you want to be, is very helpful in challenging and from intense and mild challenges in life. It really is beneficial to
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. I completely agree, and I think it takes a lot to, after a situation's happened, it could be towards a certain person, and to actually reflect on that situation, like you say, and be able to break down, what went wrong, why did it go wrong, how did it go wrong, and then taking those, and trying to flip them around to see, okay, how could I control that maybe a bit better in the future? If it's a situation to do with a certain person, you might have learned something about them, and you're like, okay, now I know that I can.
Yeah, and I think also that in life we obviously have situations that we create ourselves, positive and negative, and we also have ones that other people create towards us. So how do you apply that when, say, it's maybe someone else who's negatively impacted you? And for me, I remember a quote I read. It was in a book called The Fear Bubble by Ant Middleton, and he said, "It may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility." And that was in reference to if someone else impacts you. And the way I looked at that is, I may not create this negative or positive situation, but it is my responsibility to handle it and deal with it in the way that best benefits me. And do you feel, by looking at what's in your control, it's helped building a strength in yourself, that say someone negatively impacts you, you are able to be like, okay, why is that negative impacting me, and what can I do that is best for myself, which may be the difficult things, such as removing that person from yourself now.
Yeah, completely. Like you say, I think that's a really good quote, to be honest. Like, realizing that you're in the situation, even though you might have not brought it up or started a situation, someone's just come over to you and involved you. Yeah, I think it is your responsibility to deal with it the best, healthiest way for yourself. But no, I definitely take that, realizing what's in my control. Is it even best to kind of deal with it right now? Is it best to take that away and be like, oh, let's talk about it tomorrow? But again, I think it depends on the situation, and there's so many different ways you can handle
in life,
it. So
isn't there?
that's why it's quite difficult to say what I would do in this hypothetical situation that we don't know really what it is.
And I think something else for me as well is now realizing, when you're going through something, that it's also okay to take your time, because how you react, or how you ever act in life, actually links into one of the main lessons I feel I've learned, is that your actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And that they may be positive or negative, but I feel a lot more myself that I try to take more time and care in the things I say and the things I do in day-to-day life, but especially towards like the bigger sort of events in life that have like the bigger impacts as a whole. Because I know, or I feel, when I was going through depression, I'd act very erratically and spontaneously at points, and I think there was always part of me, there's a version of me inside that knew, say I was going into a very negative situation, knew the positive thing to do for myself, but obviously with my depression and so on, I was very strongly influenced to do the opposite, and I wouldn't often listen to that voice. Whereas now, that voice I feel is the dominant one and a lot stronger. I like to try and listen to it more, and just take that extra second or take that step back when possible. But it isn't always possible, but when possible, to, just try and take that time, like think, what will my actions now do? What will I say? Or how I act, how will that impact not just myself but also other people?
Yeah, and I think from that as well, like, it's actually crazy to think how much of an impact, say if you do something negative to someone, and how much of a kind of a ripple effect that could have on their lives. and so many other lives. You know, you could treat someone like you could treat me really badly. Now I could go home, you know, speak to my sister really badly. Then she could go out with her friends, and then she'd be in a mood, so she'd speak to her friends badly. They could go home, and it's like when you actually think about it, like what you're doing. Like, you know, say if you did something really negative, and they could have picked that up then and done the same negative thing to someone else. It's just going to be a ripple effect of negativity. But to spin it, it also works in the positive.
I was going to say, like,
so, you know, you can give, you know, you can treat people, and they might be like, okay, oh, that's really nice, actually. Oh, I'm going to treat someone, actually. And, you know, like I say, it works both ways. But I think for me, it's really surprising when you actually think how many people you're probably impacting you don't even know.
No, it's true. And I think it's something I often reflect upon is, I know we've talked and laughed a lot about how moody I used to be. And I reflect a lot on that, and it's when, say, I'm in the room and someone's in a really good mood, or, you know, they're moody or in a bad mood. It's say you're at a party and there's someone, like a house party, and there's someone sat in the setting and they're like really looking how I probably used to look, like they're like, everyone like picks up on that, and that really changes like the atmosphere and of the room, and can really impact others. And, you know, when I reflect how I used to be, it makes me feel a bit like, oh, I can't believe it used to be like that, because of how it used to radiate out. And I think that helps show me how I used to be quite selfish in a way, because I didn't ever think, how is my mood impacting others? And it's okay, you know, we're all going through things, but I'm sure the people in the room are going through things, but they're not acting like I am. And it's, again, I think with the whole our actions have consequences, something else I apply to that now is you have to take full responsibility for your actions, from your worst mistakes to your best decisions. I feel you have to sit there and be like, no, that was me. For example, with me and my depression, I you know, often reflect on my worst mistakes and the good things I did. But either side, the good and the bad, I have to sit there and be like, I might have been depressed, but to me, that was still me. My depression was very influential and impactful, but it was still me.
And I think that's, you know, that's really inspirational, because I think it is so difficult. And, you know, I can even say, I'm sure everyone, how, you know, in certain situations, how difficult it can be to actually sit down and admit and accept you're wrong. It can be hard,
It's,
you know.
very difficult.
I feel like, you know, we're not really programmed to actually sit there and be like, no, I was wrong. You know, you try to cover it up however way. That's a different thing. But I think it is really inspirational to be able to own a situation, and, you know, negative or positive, but then to sit down and reflect and be like, yeah, you know, I accept I did that. It was wrong. Accept the consequences, in a sense, you know, how that could have impacted people, how that has impacted you. Like, and own it. And it's difficult to do.
Oh,
it's really difficult.
It really is, especially when it's not so difficult when you do something really good. Because like, yeah, I did that. But when you make very big mistakes in your life, and, you know, looking back on some of the mistakes I made, it really is not easy to sit there and admit it, firstly to yourself, but then also to others, because I feel like we sort of like resort back to children. Like, you don't want to get in trouble.
It's true, yeah.
And looking at some of my own mistakes, I didn't want, say, people to find out certain things, because I was worried how they'd perceive me, or the fallout that it'd have on my life. But the way I also look at it now is that, you know, you turn to like lying and trying to deceive people and making things up to cover your tracks. But the way I look at it now is like, maybe that for me resolved it short term, and it had that, oh, I've got away with that one.
Scapegoat, yeah.
But in the long term, especially reflecting on my own mistakes, that it came back to bite me, and I feel it come back to bite me a lot harder, because I feel when you make a mistake personally, and when certainly when it impacts others on a very personal level, it's not easy in the slightest, and it's very, very difficult. But to admit it to them as early as possible is the best thing to do. You may not feel it in the moment, and you may lose a lot. You might lose a loved one. You may lose connections with people or job opportunities or whatever. But I feel in the long term, it's a lot better, because I feel when it's inevitable, I think the truth always comes out. I think it's a very true saying. And I feel when people find out about what you did, but they find out long term, say like 3 months down the line, a year down the line, I feel they're a lot more hurt than they would have been from that day one, because it feels, they'll probably feel like, and I've been on both sides of this, but it feels like you've lied and deceived me, and that I feel that completely destroys it, or not completely destroys, but really minimizes the chance of forgiveness and redemption compared to if you admit it from day one.
And I think that the time from making the mistake to telling them, say it's been a year, I feel like that year then, it's just built up that mistake in a sense when they find out, and that year that they'll probably lose so much respect for that year as well, because depending on how obviously negative it is, but they'll be maybe second guessing that year and just being like, so you've known all this time and not said anything.
Yeah, and then obviously that can then probably impact in the future, because that may impact how they trust people again. And again, I've experienced things like that. I know I've impacted people in similar ways. And again, I think that comes back to it's really challenging and difficult to admit things, but it's trying to, again, take responsibility for your actions. And to move on to now a different point, I know when we spoke earlier on in this series, something you struggled to do was to put yourself first, and you would always prioritize the needs and wants and well-being of others and your loved ones. Is that something you now feel you have a healthier balance and connection to, and a more positive mindset towards?
Yeah, definitely. I feel obviously like when I was, before I had counselling, I'd be selfish, in a very negative way. And being selfless, is amazing. It is. I'd say I'm selfish now, but I know what healthy selfless is. But I would literally put everything into everyone. Like, give them my all, do anything for anyone, everything like that. Whereas that really can negatively impact someone. Well, it really negatively impacted me, because I'd put my all into, say, someone's situation and they couldn't give a crap really about me, whereas I would think, oh, they do, so I'd do it. I wouldn't even think, I just let me help someone, and then they'd never turn an eye if I needed help or in a situation, and that really negatively impacted me. But now I feel I've got a lot more control over it. I'm selfless towards my loved ones, but still I would never do something that I know would negatively impact me in the future.
Yeah, so
I've got to protect myself.
So do you feel you've learned to put yourself first, but not in a selfish way, which I think is an incredible trait and ability to be able to have and do, is to find that balance between yourself and your loved ones, and learn to, okay, it's really good to help my loved ones and care for them, which is how it should be, but also apply that same time and effort to myself.
Yeah, definitely. I think another thing I learned was the kind of priorities of everything in my life, and one of them, a big one for me, was actually myself, focusing on myself. How are you meant to help other people and be there for other people if you can't bloody do that for yourself?
No, it's true, and I think we all can be guilty of it at times. It's as we say, it's truly admirable, and I think what we all strive to do is put our loved ones first and take care of them. But I think you also, in a sense, have to learn to put yourself first, because I know the way I sort of look at it is, how can I expect to give my best to other people when I can't even give my best to myself? And a lot of the time it is easier to give other people advice and help other people, and I think it takes a lot of strength to apply that to yourself and take care of yourself.
No, yeah, no, it's difficult at points, and to be honest, it's I find it quite strange to actually think, what would be best for me, and it's it's like you're discovering, you're learning about yourself, what do I like, what do I don't like, would this situation be good for me, would it be good going here, would it be good hanging out with these people? And it's weird for me to do that now, because I've not done it for 10 plus years. What's crazy, but no, I think it's a massive step for me that I've learned that, and I would do anything for my loved ones, and hands down, I'd literally be there for them in any situation. But it's nice to say that rather than saying I'd be there for anyone, because I don't think would be good for me.
No, and now I've obviously that self-respect, because I feel in the past, like you said, you'd give love and care and attention to these people who would then not turn around and give you the same. But you did. But then if they need help again, you'd immediately be like, "Oh, I'll help you." Whereas now it's sort of like, they'll say, "Fool me once, shame on you." fool me twice, shame on me. So it's now sort of like, if you realize someone is taking, and it's a one-way unhealthy toxic relationship, it's like, this isn't good for me now. And it may be challenging. It's never easy to cut people, but it's sort of like having that self-respect and be like, no, this isn't good for me. I need to put myself first, because it's only hurting me allowing this relationship, this bond relationship, whatever it be, to be in my life in this manner.
Yeah, exactly that.
I think for me, that's something I'm really developing, is that on the mention of loved ones and so on. I know in the past I was someone that would chase people. So with all my life, I feel very lucky that I've always had amazing loved ones around me, people who have cared and loved me unconditionally. But especially when I was going through depression, I got to a point myself where I got very complacent with that and unappreciative, I think, in that I developed sort of like a mindset and attitude. It's like, okay, it's like my core loved ones, it'd be like, okay, I know I have their love and affection and they will never go anywhere. So I don't need to put effort into that anymore. But then say there would be people who's like, oh, I don't like Callum, or I didn't feel that way, but I've got to chase and I've got to make them like me.
God, that is so negative.
Which is so unhealthy and reflecting it, because first I'm neglecting my loved ones, which just isn't right at all.
Yeah.
But also I'm putting more effort and love and care into people who aren't giving me back.
Energy, aren't you? You're putting the energy into such like a black hole, really.
No, literally. But then there's also the other, with my loved ones, they're human as well. They have feelings, they have emotions, and there's only probably so long they would have tolerated me treating them like that, because, like we're saying, when something becomes toxic or a toxic relationship, it's difficult. But if you're being honest with yourself, you have to be like, no, that's not good. And a lot of my loved ones, and I've experienced in a sense, got to the point where it's like, I can't be around you anymore. It's this roller coaster. I don't know where I'm at with you one day and the next. And I respect and understand that, and I respect the people who probably did have enough, but I also really appreciate the people who stood by me and saw the best of me in the worst of times. But I definitely now, I feel value my loved ones, and like you say, the priorities of, I know who is good for me, and to not chase the negatives anymore, or try not to.
Yeah. So say if you feel like you met someone who wasn't, who didn't really like you in a sense, wasn't really fond of the person you are. How do you feel like you would feel and be now towards that?
I think if I used to hear someone didn't like me, or someone would say something negative about me or towards me, I'd sort of take it to heart and be like, what can I do to please you? Like, whereas now I try to look at it, it's like, if a loved one, like a true loved one, say something to me, I'll sit down and try and speak to them and ask, okay, why do you feel that way? And ask, because I care about their opinion, and I know they care about me, so I know they wouldn't say it
out of nothing.
For no reason whatsoever. But if it's someone I don't know or something like that, it's sort of like, well, who are you to me? You're not a loved one. Why should I care what you think? And it's easier said than done. Words do hurt, but that's again when you turn to loved ones and you speak to them and they help you get through it. But now I wouldn't chase about, I've got to change your opinion of me. It's like, if that's your opinion, that's fine, because we all have our opinions, but I am not going to waste my time and energy on someone who doesn't care, when I have so many amazing people who do care, that my time would be better spent on.
Yeah, that's amazing to see that, like the shift though, from putting your energy in the wrong, the wrong place, really, to now switching that, put it into to those who actually deserve it, and shouldn't be taken for granted, like you say.
No, definitely not. And I think something else I'm really developing or learning towards is trust, and how important and precious trust is in life.
Oh, I agree with you there, and I feel like it kind of wraps in with the, like putting your self-worth and your loved ones as well. Like, I trust them, without a doubt, like my loved ones, and I'm sure the same with you as well. But I used to just give it out like it was just like free,
like it was nothing. Just like, yeah,
I trust you. I've never met you, but I trust you.
Here's my deepest secret. Yeah, let me tell you everything about me.
Yeah, literally. Whereas now, how perfect would the world be if you could trust anyone?
It would be amazing, and like you say, the perfect world.
Yeah,
but
it'd be perfect, but unfortunately, been in too many rubbish situations to learn that you can't just trust people.
So how do you approach meeting new people and things now? So it's like you say, you used to go into, here's 100% of my trust.
Yeah.
What's your mindset towards it now, or how do you go about it now?
Yeah. So I love meeting new people. I love meeting new friends and speaking to people, but I wouldn't do that now. I wouldn't put 100% of my trust in someone, because that's not putting myself first. I have to be rational. You know, I'd happily be, probably, like, say, if we're talking percentages, like 30-40% be there. And don't get me wrong, I expect this the same back on everyone I speak to, because you've got to, at the moment, with how the world is and stuff, you've got to protect yourself. You got to protect, So yeah, I'd go in there trusting them, say like 40%, and if it's a friendship that that's going to blossom and you're going to get closer, the trust would then develop. But I'd be very, I wouldn't say careful really. I just wouldn't tell them things that.
Well, no, they've got, like you say, you've got to build it up in each other, and I think that's a very important part of friendships and relationships and bonds and that's why it's also good to go in, like you say, at 40% trust to build it up to hundreds. It allows you time with each other to learn about each other.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're going 100%, you're giving your all, and I feel like you're skipping very important steps. But building that trust, I think, allows to also build a bond with each other.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, at the moment we both kind of have, like quite a small circle in terms of, friends and family who's involved in that. And, we trust them beyond belief. And, maybe, over the years and years of meeting new friends and obviously new family members, etc., that circle might grow a bit. What'll be, we lovely as well.
But like you say, just going to freely let anyone enter that circle now. And you wouldn't expect the same way.
Exactly. Like, I'm speaking as if, think, I've got to protect myself. Whereas I want everyone should be like that, in a sense, like just take care and protect yourself in certain situations.
Well, that probably tells you also a lot when you meet this new person. If they weren't to do that, you'd be like, oh, that probably maybe would raise something to you, like they're not approaching it like that, so maybe they might not. You can read so much into things.
You can, yeah.
And do you think something else, I know I do a lot, is like, do you feel like you reflect on yourself a lot and how how you are compared to how you were, and take pride in the development you feel, and then look to how you can further that development and never get comfortable or complacent in who you are, but not in a way where you drive yourself mad. I've got to improve every day, but just appreciating who you are now and looking how you can just keep developing as a person.
Yeah, completely. I know. Between ourselves, we always talk about the kind of how we were in a sense of. And how we are now, and how much that has changed, and like drastically. What is amazing to think, and it's something that I'm proud of. Like, and I like reflecting about it, because it's just sometimes I'm sat there and I'm like, is this the same person? Was I actually like that?
Yeah.
But no, I feel like in myself at the moment, I like to reflect, and I always like to think, like at the moment where I am in life, like I'm actually like truly happy in myself. What is amazing to actually say and feel. But no, I do like to reflect occasionally, to be honest, and to realise how far I've come, and then, like you say, like how to develop even more, and how to become
to maintain that happiness.
Self-development. I'm all for self-development, and I feel like it's something like should never stop doing, even when I'm hopefully 90 and 95. I still have something that I want to.
Well, yeah, now because you've got that happiness back now, and you want to build on that and just keep growing it. You never want to let it fall any more than that, and that is, I think, truly admirable attitude to have, and a very strong one to have.
Yeah, I feel it definitely is. Do you feel like that's something you do, reflecting regularly on how you are now to how you were?
I feel that it's definitely something to do, and I know, for example, I have things on my phone throughout the counselling journey, and I think I mentioned it in my counselling journey episodes, that I also have a PowerPoint where the counsellor asked me a question at the beginning of the program, and then also asked me the same question at the end, and it showed the different answers, and I think that's something that really helps show me how much I've changed. And I feel there's a lot of ways of change that I maybe don't realise yet, or I forgot, but I think that's the really beautiful thing about it, is when you realise or rediscover these things, when you have these moments where it's like, oh, I've not reacted like I thought I would there, but in a nice way, and you feel that sort of warmth, and it's like, I'm really happy with that development in myself. I feel, for example, when I'm not moody and grunting at my loved ones when they ask me a question, or when I'm not isolating in my room like I used to, my social life has greatly improved. I know we go out a lot and making a lot of happy memories, and just starting to really enjoy my life but also enjoy who I am now as well.
That's really beautiful though, that you can actually see that.
No, it isn't. But I think definitely one of the key lessons in that and helping maintain this happiness and not letting the negatives back in and planting seeds and being toxic like I know they have been for myself in the past is how, and like I say, a big lesson is how powerful a positive mindset is, and that trying to always strive to find the positives in the negatives in life.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think being able to do that is challenging.
It's not always easy or straightforward. It really isn't.
It isn't, no, but I think especially learning how to kind of try your best to take positives out of negative situations, or flip negatives into positives and learning from them. It's definitely like when you can do it, and when you've done it on the occasions or something, you've like, it's so hard to try and maintain that positive mindset, really.
No, it is, and I think that's why I think when we go through things as a species, we will say things like everything happens for a reason, or what's meant to be will be. It's accepting these negatives, like, okay, it's happened, but not letting them drown you. Like I know for me, I know in the past certain things have. It's okay, that didn't go the way I wanted, or that's really upset me or impacted me, but I can't let myself stay in this rut or dwell too long, because it's just going to drag me down. And that's when I take other lessons that the counsellor helped teach me, such as speaking to loved ones, because I know, for example, speaking to you helps me a lot, because it helps. I think speaking to other people helps because, especially in negative times, it helps, gives other points of views or other ways of thinking, that because I feel you can become very tunnel visioned, and cause you think your own way. You got to think how you feel to think, but sometimes that isn't always the best way to think or to be. So when you speak to other people, they help maybe open your mind or open your eyes to another way of thinking, that's actually, oh, I didn't look at it like that. Or I know something for me that I do a lot is I have positive notes on my phone, such as I've wrote happy memories with loved ones, or the loved ones have sent me messages, or things the counsellor said I've saved on my phone, and I know when I read them that really helps lift my spirit. But again, even that, it's not easy. I'll still catch myself, like, I'll get complacent with it, or I'll be in a bit of a lull, or I've not read the positive notes for a week. I'm like, why are you not doing what helps you? But I think it can just be human nature sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like that is a really powerful, tool, really, in having those notes, and you've saved those notes, and certain things that that do make you feel better in a sense, and make you feel more positive. And when you're in a situation, reading them, and that they actually have an impact on you, what I think is knowing something that in a sense works.
No, and
it's very lucky.
It is very lucky, and I do feel very lucky that the council was able to highlight these certain areas that do help me so much. And I think with also you going through your counselling journey, it helps show me how even more so, and gain a better understanding and appreciation that everyone is different. Because I know, for example, you don't have the positive notes like I have, and it also, I mean, we do speak a lot, but I know it benefits me more, or I know I speak to you a lot more in a sense about things I'm going through, because my mind works better when I speak to you, whereas I feel I'm learning you're able to maybe naturally resolve things within your mind that I may need to speak to you about. But there's nothing wrong with that. That's just who we are. And like you say, it's very lucky to know that aspect, because then you can find the solutions for that problem within yourself, in a sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I know we've said it in the past, but like a problem shared is a problem halved, isn't it? And,
it is.
And talking to people, and especially your loved ones and people you can trust, is it can help beyond belief, really. And
I always say, I mean, there's so many lessons, and we are going to be doing a second part on this. But do you feel now, you mentioned before, you're in a place where you're very happy, or you probably that you feel like you found your happiness again. Do you feel that you now don't take your happiness for granted after losing it, and it's something you will strive to always maintain and develop?
Definitely, 100%. I feel so privileged in a sense, really, to say that I'm truly happy, and I feel happy within myself, and I'll do anything to protect that. And as much as that, I don't want to get complacent with it. That's why I'm always mentioning that I want to self-develop. I want to keep building that. I want to keep building myself and becoming what I see as like a better person. And yeah, so that's like my take on it really. What about yourself?
No, I 100% agree, and I feel after losing it is something I now very much appreciate, but also know that it's going to come with its challenges and tests, because that's what life is. But also learning to say to myself that, and remember that I am human and that it is okay to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. Just because I've done counselling doesn't make me perfect, but I now have sort of like a new mantra. It's like, it's not about being perfect, it's about being positive, and accepting myself that I'm going to mess up and I will make mistakes, but believing that I won't make the mistakes I made in the past, or mistakes of such a level that they would feed my depression like they used to. And I think that's the beauty again of life. Is, I know something you say a lot is, and we say to each other, is that these lessons are forever expanding and will always come. And like you said before about when you get to 90 and you still want to be working on your happiness, I don't feel it's ever something you could perfect, because life has so much about it, and you can never do everything life has to offer and find out every single thing you could ever find out about yourself. But again, I think something we mentioned in previous episode, it is about, I feel, trying to surround yourself with as many of those positives that do maintain and build your happiness, and minimizing where possible within your control the negatives that life can present.
Yeah, I think that's really amazing, and I completely agree with what you said. And I think we are going to be continuing discussing this in the next part as well, aren't we? So I think it's quite a good place to leave this episode where it is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you could please give it a like and a share, that would mean so much to us. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications button to keep up to date with any of our future episodes. If you have any comments or thoughts at all on this episode, just please drop them below on any of our social media.
Yeah, and we're available on all social media platforms under the username @LT Podcast Online. We're also available on all podcast directories such as Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, as well as YouTube. And if you check out our description below, it's got all our links and further information in there. And as always, guys, thank you very much for listening to this episode. We hope to catch you in the next one, and take it easy.
Yeah, take it easy, guys. Peace.